Why do we get a feeling in every country in the world that everything's collapsing? Everything feels like it's collapsing, whether it's the health service or job situation or the state government services. Everything seems to be collapsing. Now, obviously, we can say the pandemic obviously accelerated that with the work from home craziness. That certainly accelerated it, but it was going on before, and it's going on much, much worse now. So why is it in every country everyone's got this feeling that just potholes are increasing, the transportation isn't working? Why? So the answer can be, it's one thing to do with a meritocracy. Now, capitalism relies on a meritocracy, which means someone who's better gets more business, right? If you're a better provider of bus services, people will use your buses, right? If you're a better provider of, I don't know, you're a better restaurant, you give more meat or whatever, people will go to you, right? That's a meritocracy. Now, the problem is when you get government involved, and currently governments are between 50 to 70% of total GDP in countries. So in the UK, it's 50%. In America, it's up to 40%. In countries like France, it's 60%. And in China, it's 25%. Yeah, that's a problem. They don't tell you that. Anyway, in our Western countries, governments are huge amounts of the GDP. And they dictate really what goes on. And because they're involved in all markets and they dictate who does what does when. So already you don't have a meritocracy because they select. You are going to be the main providers. You are going to be the main builders of properties. You're going to be the main transport providers. We're going to give you these fat contracts and you're going to give us kickbacks. That's just how it works. And this is how everything works. So therefore, in the big company things, in the big decisions, already there's never been capitalism. It's literally state-sponsored communism. And that's what we've been having. But let's put that on the side. Let's say they go and select, I don't know, a certain service provider to provide them something. IT, for instance, IT services of something. Okay, that's still fine. I'm sure they're very good, they're competent. Well, that's where it's gone downhill as well. And that's because of the woke rubbish, the DEI, the diversity, equality, and inclusivity rubbish. So we've had now the boss of Aviva, which is one of the biggest UK's biggest insurance companies, saying every white male hire has to be approved by me, the CEO. That's insane. That's insane. You're dealing with a big company. To have every white male hire approved by the CEO is obscene. That is what's going on. They're taking this craziness to the nth degree. Now, I've seen it as well in my life. I've seen, female bosses appointed in positions they should never be in, just to increase the inclusivity quota. They're incompetent. They take off more time. They're not fit for purpose. They're not going to be as dedicated, and still they get that position because of diversity. Now, where does this go? This goes to South Africa. South Africa used to be a very competent, amazing economy. They actually themselves came up with the nuclear weapons in the 70s. They're a very great economy. Oh yes, that's true. 80% of the population was had apartheid. That's true. But was their standard of living that much lower than it is now? That's questionable. Anyway, there's one thing that is for sure. They did all have electricity. Well, since 2008, Eskom, their state-owned electricity supplier, has not been able to produce enough electricity for South Africa. And every day there's been power cuts since 2008. The company is officially bankrupt, has been for a while, and this is due to affirmative action policies, putting incompetent people in charge of things. And what can incompetent people do? They hire other incompetent people, their mates, under them who are also incompetent. And so the whole thing is incompetent. No one gets the blame because the government is also that kind of, they're the same, they're the black people, right? So they also appointed these people, right? So the government can't tell them off because they're also in cahoots with them, and they can't say appoint a competent person, he happens to be white, we can't have that. So they just it's there's no resolution to this crisis in South Africa. It's just mad. The government's incompetent, the power supply is incompetent, who hires incompetent people. I don't know what to tell you. So it's absolutely crazy. That is South Africa, and that is where we are going. We are going to every industry being ruined by sheer incompetence. And where can we clearly see that? Harvard, the number one university in the world, some people would say, right? So we have there the Claudine Gay, who is the president, and she obviously, as you remember, she was called to a Senate hearing, and she asked, what do you say if people call for genocide of Jews on your campus? What would you do? And she said it depends on the context, right? Which is insane, because if someone asked for genocide of LGBT, what you would do, I mean, these people would be thrown out, the professor would be fired, like they'd probably be jailed, right? But genocide of Jews depends on the context. Okay, everyone knows this. Who is this Claudine Gay? Is she fit to be, she's a professor apparently. Is she fit to be a professor? She's only had about 11 articles, peer-reviewed 11 articles, which is very, very low for a professor. But she's a black woman, and she's gay. Well, she's not really gay. It's in her name, but I'm joking. But she's black, and she's a woman. That ticks every box right there. Then they found out those 11 peer-reviewed articles were actually plagiarized. So had bits that were plagiarized in it. Now, I know someone who did that in university once. A tiny bit of her thing she plagiarized, didn't quote it, thrown out, ruined her life, destroyed. This woman, professor, has all her 11 peer-reviewed articles they found had bits of plagiarized articles, which in her own university, they would be thrown out. She is still in place. She's not going to do anything about the genocide of Jews on her campus, but because she is a black female, she is still in place. So this is the number one university, supposedly, in America, with incompetence at the top. So that leads to incompetence below, right? Hiring incompetent professors, and we have them. We've seen them, all their crazy pro-Palestinian views, which leads to incompetent students going out into the workplace, right? Then leading those companies, and they're incompetent and not fit for purpose. And that's how we get this feeling that society is broken, because it's just a barrier, and it makes people who are competent give up. There's no point. What's the point in trying? What is the point in trying if you've got no chance of getting promoted, or no chance of breaking that diversity barrier? You're a white male at Aviva. What is your chance of getting promoted? Zero, right? That's the way it is. If you don't follow the views of LGBT, Ukraine, pro-Palestinian, whatever, you're not going to get anywhere in your Harvard career as a professor. What is the point? There is no meritocracy anymore. And so therefore, people just give up. And therefore, you don't get the people at the top that are needed. And you don't get that kind of promotion. You don't get that inspiration. And people are disheartened throughout the entire organization. It kills everything. No one can be bothered to do anything because they know there's no point. If I'm not, fitting a certain DEI bracket, then forget it. And the one who does fit the DEI bracket knows I don't have to do any effort. I'm going to get there anyway because of who I am. So this is how you've killed, because there's no meritocracy, there's no capitalism, there is nothing in this society anymore. And it's got to the point now where everything's crumbling and no one can do anything about it. You're going to fire Claudine Gay? How dare you? How dare you? And so she's still in place.